And now back to our interview with Leslie Knopf. Well, Leslie Knopf, we're talking about CAST, that you're the business director for it, and it's about catechesis and apologetics and stories and travel and things. You also have this great podcast of Catholic Bites. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that's actually where everything started. It was 3 seminarians who were studying in Rome who thought, we have this great knowledge of the faith and we want to be able to share it with people back in the States. And so they asked if I would help with the communication side of things, because that's what I was studying. But everything's short. It's 10 minutes or less. And we actually just launched about a year ago, I suppose, 60 Seconds podcast. So it's little nuggets about the faith. The speakers are very engaging and it's great content too. But they have this whole plan of over the course of 3 to 4 years to give a comprehensive catechesis of the whole faith. So, and that's on iTunes. It's also on the website with CatholicBites.com.
And the content's run by seminarians or priests in Rome that are studying at these pontifical schools. It's a great brain trust, a great source.
Yeah, no, it is, because you have guys who are studying anything from liturgy to patristics to spiritual theology. And I think it's a great exercise for them too, to take all this knowledge at a very deep level that they're learning, to be able to communicate it to your everyday person in 10 minutes. So it's a great exercise for them, and we get to benefit from it. So
you all edit it back home in Austin, where you're at, Austin, Texas.
We do.
Tell us also, you have plans for apps and use of travel, pilgrimages. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so one of our areas within CAST is travel, because, and also it plays along with beauty as well, but when you travel and experience beautiful things, such as pilgrimage sites or St. Peter's Basilica, there's all this richness with the faith there. And we thought, everyone's on their phones, so why not utilize that? Because you have people, take St. Peter's Basilica, for example, which is what we would love to do. You have people who are there for the art, you have people who are there for the history, you have people there on a spiritual pilgrimage. So let's take all of that and offer a resource for people to be able to encounter our Lord there, or people who aren't necessarily there for a spiritual reason, to take advantage of that opportunity. Because if you see like the Pietà, you explain what it is just in art, and you can't escape sacrificial love, for example.
I think that's such a fantastic idea. Like, if you look at the Pietà, you hit your app, you hear this excellent little talk on it. That's from a faith perspective, not just from an art perspective, which oftentimes you get on these pilgrimages. So I think that'll be really successful. And these are elements too of what you call like pre-evangelization. Tell us what that is about. Yeah,
so we recognize that people spend so much of their time on social media, and although conversion can happen anywhere, we really want to be sowing the seeds for people to encounter witnesses to the faith in their everyday life. And so we consider it pre-evangelization because we're actually just hoping to build a vocabulary of truth and the faith in God that people aren't used to having in their everyday conversations anymore. So when they end up encountering a witness in everyday life, it's not some foreign language or concept. And so we do that through the stories, through the catechesis, or whatever it may be that we do on social media.
That's a way of like breaking through the prejudices of a secular culture, right? Just talk about great work of art and the faith behind it that inspired it teaches them. Let's talk a little bit about how you got involved with this. Tell us about your history of coming to CAST.
Yeah, so I've been with CAST from the very beginning, but I started out by just creating fun titles for the podcast. And from there, I was blessed with the privilege of doing a project with the Holy See for the Year of Mercy, where we did a video and audio guide for pilgrims coming to walk through the holy doors that year. But really, even to get there, it was kind of this providential happenstance that I just realized I didn't want to do anything with what I was studying. And so I took that to prayer. I was like, okay, I want to tell people about Jesus, but I don't think there's a job for that necessarily. And I got ice cream with one of my fellow missionaries over a summer and a priest, and he just looked at me and he said, you know what you should do with your life? And I said, oh, please tell me. They say signs don't come, but I'm holding out. And he told me about the program in Rome. So I picked up and moved to Rome for 3 years, and the rest kind of just fell into place. As one would suspect if you're following the Lord.
And now you're throwing that net onto the digital continent. Tell us about that challenge. What do you think is the greatest challenge for the church in that digital world?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge to try and communicate something so beautiful and so deep in a very quick culture. Because whether, like on Instagram, you have a photo. How do you evangelize through one photo? Or through Snapchat, you have at most 10 seconds. How do you evangelize through that? And so to communicate something so deep, you have to realize you can't do it all. So how can we start doing that? Which is through the pre-evangelization that I was kind of talking about earlier. Right. But at the same time, there's such a great responsibility to do it. When we say, go and preach to all nations are actually on one platform right now. So it's this great opportunity, but it's also a challenge because you also don't want to do disservice to the faith. Because you don't want to water it down, because that's not necessarily attractive. So it's finding that balance of engagement, but richness. Yeah,
and then just the personal encounter is so important too, that you have to somehow have in all this social media, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're preparing the way for a social encounter, but I think that's something that we can all very easily do. If you're practicing the faith, show that on social media. You don't have to, preach a homily, or you don't have to give a declaration of your faith on social media, but if you pray in the morning and you find something inspirational, tweet it. Or if you're going to Mass, send a snap of the church you're going to.
And then a lot of it too is just to encourage the faithful, those who are trying to live the faith, that have been evangelized, but it's still a struggle. So
I think that's a whole other field too, is providing content that we try to do, provide content for people who are actively searching, because I spend a lot of my time on Facebook, and I want to be built up in the faith on that platform too, and so we also do that as well.
Well, Leslie Knopf, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.